Welcome to Clear English Pod. Speak English with confidence. Hello everyone and welcome back to this podcast. My name is Henry and today we are going to talk about something that millions of English learners have experienced. Something frustrating, something confusing, and something that almost nobody talks about honestly. We are going to talk about grammar books and why, despite everything you have been told, they are simply not enough. Let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever studied a grammar book from the first page to the last? Have you ever memorized the present perfect, the past continuous, the conditional tenses, all the rules, all the exceptions, all the exercises? Have you ever felt like you truly understood English grammar, but then opened your mouth to speak and found that the words still wouldn't come? Have you ever sat in a conversation and thought, I know this rule, I studied this, why can't I use it right now? If your answer is yes, please don't worry, and please don't feel like a failure. What you are experiencing is one of the most common frustrations in the entire world of language learning. And today, I am going to explain exactly why this happens, and exactly what you can do about it, starting today. By the end of this episode, you will understand what grammar books are genuinely good for, what they cannot do no matter how good they are, what actually builds real English ability, and how to use grammar books correctly as part of a smarter, more effective learning system. Let's begin this journey together. Before we talk about what grammar books cannot do, let's be fair and talk about what they can do, because grammar books are not useless. They serve a real and important purpose, and I don't want you to throw your grammar book away after this episode. Grammar books are excellent reference tools when you are confused about a specific rule, when you want to understand why a sentence is structured a certain way, when you need a clear explanation of the difference between two tenses. A good grammar book can answer that question quickly and clearly. This is genuinely valuable. Grammar books are also good for building a basic framework. When you are a complete beginner and you have no sense at all of how English sentences are built, a grammar book can give you a starting map, a rough outline of how the language works at a structural level. This map is helpful. But here is the problem. A map is not the same as the journey. Knowing a map is not the same as walking the road. And this is where millions of learners make the most costly mistake of their entire English education. Many learners treat the grammar book as the journey itself. They study it page by page, chapter by chapter, exercise by exercise, as if completing the book will mean completing their English learning. They feel productive while they are doing it. They feel organized. They feel like they are moving forward. But finishing a grammar book does not make you a fluent English speaker, for the same reason that reading every book ever written about swimming does not make you a swimmer. At some point, you have to get into the water. No amount of reading about swimming will prepare your lungs, your arms, and your instincts for the actual experience of being in the water. Language learning works exactly the same way. So, here is the new rule, the most important idea of today's entire episode. Grammar explains English. It cannot teach you to speak it. Think about what speaking English actually requires in real time. When you are in a conversation, you don't have 10 seconds to remember a grammar rule. You don't have time to mentally search through everything you studied and find the correct tense. You don't have time to construct a perfect sentence in your head before you open your mouth. Real conversation moves fast, and it waits for nobody. Words need to come automatically, instinctively, the same way they do when you speak your own native language. Nobody thinks about grammar rules when they speak their first language. The rules are buried so deep inside them through years of natural exposure and use that they appear automatically, without any conscious thought at all. This is what fluency actually looks and feels like from the inside. This is exactly the kind of deep, automatic knowledge that grammar books cannot give you, no matter how carefully you study them. Grammar books give you conscious knowledge, knowledge you can think about and explain. But speaking fluently requires unconscious knowledge, knowledge that lives in your instincts and comes out automatically under pressure. So how do you build that unconscious knowledge? How do you move grammar from your thinking mind into your speaking instincts? The answer is input and output, massive amounts of both, in context, over time. Let's talk about what actually builds real English ability, because this is the most important practical part of today's episode. The first thing that builds real English ability is listening to large amounts of natural English. When you listen to natural English, real conversations, podcasts, videos, stories, your brain is doing something remarkable. It is absorbing not just the words, but the patterns, the rhythms, the way sentences flow, the way grammar works in real speech, which is often very different from how it looks in a textbook. Contractions appear everywhere. Words link together and blend. Sentences are shorter and simpler than anything you find in a grammar exercise. This absorption process is slow and quiet, and you cannot always feel it happening, but it is incredibly powerful. It is exactly how children acquire grammar, not by studying rules, but by hearing patterns repeated thousands of times until those patterns become completely instinctive, appearing without effort and without thought. The second thing is reading simple, enjoyable English texts. When you read something that interests you, your brain encounters grammar in context, surrounded by meaning and feeling. The grammar is not isolated in an exercise. It is attached to a story, an idea, an emotion. And this context is what makes it stick in your memory in a way that isolated grammar drills simply cannot match. The third thing is speaking, even imperfectly, as often as possible. Speaking is where conscious knowledge begins its journey toward unconscious knowledge. Every time you try to use a grammar structure in real speech, even if you make a mistake, your brain is practicing the process of accessing that structure under pressure. Over time, with enough repetition, the structure stops requiring conscious thought and starts appearing automatically. This is fluency. This is what grammar books alone can never give you. Now, I want to be very clear about something because I don't want to leave you with the wrong message. Grammar study has a place in your learning, but it is a specific, limited place, and most learners are using it in completely the wrong way. Here is how to use grammar books correctly. Use them as a reference, not as a course. When something in your listening or reading confuses you, when you hear a structure you don't understand, when you make a mistake and want to know why, open your grammar book, find the explanation, read it, understand it, and then close the book and go back to real English. Don't spend an hour doing grammar exercises. Spend 5 minutes finding the answer to your specific question, and then spend the rest of your time with natural English. Use grammar books to confirm what you are already beginning to feel, not to introduce entirely new concepts in isolation. When your brain has heard a pattern many times through natural input, a grammar explanation of that pattern will click immediately and feel satisfying, like suddenly understanding the name of something you have already experienced. This is the right order. Real English first, grammar explanation second. Now let's talk about a simple daily method that actually works, a method you can use starting today to build the kind of deep, automatic English ability that grammar books alone can never give you. Step 1. Spend 15 minutes listening to simple, natural English every day. A podcast, a short video, a graded audio story. Something easy enough that you understand at least 60 to 70% without stopping. Let your brain absorb the patterns without stress. Step 2. Spend 10 minutes reading something short and enjoyable in English. A simple article, a short story, a few paragraphs from a book you like. Read for meaning and enjoyment, not to analyze grammar. Step 3. Spend 5 minutes speaking out loud every single day. Talk to yourself about what you listened to or read today. Describe your day. Speak freely without worrying about mistakes. The goal is practice, not perfection. If grammar confuses you during any of these steps, open your grammar book for 5 minutes to find the answer, and then return immediately to your real English practice. This is the correct relationship between grammar study and real language learning. Grammar is a small tool inside a much larger practice, not the other way around. Now let's talk about why so many learners get this backwards and how you can make sure you don't repeat the same mistake. The reason most learners over-rely on grammar books is simple and very human. Grammar books feel safe. They feel organized, structured, measurable, and under control. You can see your progress in a very clear and satisfying way. You finished Chapter 1. You understood the exercises. You scored well on the end of chapter quiz. You moved on to Chapter 2. This feels like achievement, and in some small way it genuinely is. But it is the achievement of understanding a map more deeply, not of walking any further along the actual road. Real language learning feels messier and less controlled than grammar study. You don't always know if you're making progress. You listen to things you don't fully understand and wonder if it is helping. You speak imperfectly and feel embarrassed. You read things that confuse you and don't know what to do with that confusion. This discomfort is normal, and it is not a sign that something is going wrong. It is exactly where real learning happens, and most learners avoid it by retreating back to the false comfort and false clarity of grammar exercises, instead of pushing through the discomfort into genuine improvement. So, the next time you feel the urge to open your grammar book and work through another chapter instead of listening to real English, remind yourself of this. Grammar explains English. It cannot teach you to speak it. The only thing that teaches you to speak English is speaking English, surrounded by as much real, natural English as you can possibly absorb every single day. Now, let's finish with some final, powerful thoughts. You are not failing because you are bad at grammar. You are not failing because English is too difficult. If you have been studying grammar books for years and still cannot speak comfortably, you are not failing at all. You have simply been using the right tool in the wrong way, for the wrong purpose, in the wrong amount. The good news is that this is completely fixable, starting today, with nothing more than 30 minutes, a podcast, a short text, and your own voice. Remember this sentence because it captures everything from today's episode. Grammar explains English. It cannot teach you to speak it. Only real English can do that. So, today, put the grammar book down for one day, just one day, and fill that time instead with listening, reading, and speaking. Notice how different it feels. Notice how much more alive the English feels when it comes with real meaning attached to it, real voices, real rhythm, real human experience. Notice how much more naturally certain phrases and patterns begin to appear in your mind after even just one session of real connected English practice. Because every minute you spend with real English is quietly building the fluent, natural, confident speaker you are becoming. One conversation, one listening session, one imperfect spoken sentence at a time. I believe in you, and you should believe in yourself too. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. This is Henry, and I will see you again very soon in the next podcast episode. Until then, keep listening, keep speaking, and keep learning the real way. The natural way, the way that actually works. Goodbye, and take care.